It Rising. I'm your host, Kellen Cup, and y'all know the drill. I don't believe in coincidences. We meet all these people in our lives, and it seems chaotic and it seems random. You take these spiritual leaders that talk about, oh, all these magical, miraculous things happen if you just attune to it, and there's all these amazing thoughts that you can have, and thoughts influence the outcome of the future and the past, and everything is fluid in this metaphysical reality we find ourselves in. And then you have these quantum physicists who are like, well, it turns out that if you turn this electron over here, that one moves as well, even though it's really far away, and that doesn't make any sense, and we're all in a hologram. Anyway, our guest today owns this company called Automation Wolf, which again is no coincidence. Why are we talking? I don't know the reasons. I am just a player in the game. But we had a great conversation backstage about an embarrassing moment I had. He's got 3 boys. They don't fight physically like he did when he was younger. They fight digitally, which is a new way for siblings to fight each other. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, the incredible Matthew Hunt.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right. So I don't know what businesses should do, Matthew, to get more leads. It feels like the old handshaky model is coming back a little bit post-pandemic, but things will never be the same.
They probably will never be the same. That is true.
So what should they do? If you own a business and you're trying to get other businesses to purchase from your business, aka B2B, what's the plan?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, I've run 3 B2B businesses now and helped probably hundreds of them over the years. And there is a bit of a pattern that happens at the end of the day. And this is not going to surprise you, but people tend to buy from people they know, like, and trust. We've all heard this before. And the mistake that people make is they start selling before they actually have trust. No trust should be done until no selling should be done until you actually exhibited trust. All right. And there's actually a formula of this. So I know you were talking about before physics and math and these universal laws. Well, there is a guy, his name was Daniel Priestley. He wrote a book called Oversubscribed. Kevin, have you ever read that book, Oversubscribed?
I have not, never heard of it.
Okay. Well, it's a great book. And it's a great book because it's evergreen. Anytime you could pick up a book and you can read it, any decade is going to make sense. It's a good book. Those principles apply. Well, Daniel Priestley, what he said in the book is he did some research on like what do people do who make major purchasing decisions? So like buying a car, investing your money, or like investing thousands, if not hundreds, if not millions of dollars a year in your business. What do you need to do? Well, they realized, hey, people need to spend 7 hours, okay, researching that brand or being around that person, 11 interactions in 4 different locations before they see the brand or the person as a strategic advisor versus just an acquaintance, or a lot of times what we call strangers. Those people who try to connect with you on LinkedIn and then they try to pitch you later. Those are strangers. They're not strategic advisors, and it doesn't go very well. And so what you really need to do is you need to get yourself in a position that you're seen as a strategic partner first before you do any selling. And there's an actual system to doing that, and it's called demand gen. This is not inbound marketing. This is not outbound marketing. This is actually building demand for your services at a one-to-many level. And there's 3 pillars to it. And the pillars are short form, long form, controlled form. Now, short form is that little snackable content that you often see in social media websites like LinkedIn in the newsfeed, where there's a helpful tip and video, images, polls, PDF carousels, videos. You've probably seen them. Well, that's a short form content. What that does is it keeps you top of mind with your existing warm network, and it allows you to be discovered possibly by other people who don't know you yet.
So let me ask you a question. So I have been criticized because I have
Give me their names. Give me their names, and I'm going to go after them for you because you shouldn't be criticized.
And addresses, and I will publicly give you their phone numbers. So here's the issue. So I'm on the TikTok. My sister Chelsea Smith owns a company called Pretty Pomp. She just rebranded, and she
Cool
gets
name.
many tens of thousands of views. She has over 1 million likes, hundreds of thousands of followers, and she has turned her channel into a giant commercial for what she does.
Sure.
I don't do that, right? Yeah. I don't wake up every day and go, you know what would be great if I gave someone an update on Google Maps, right? Google Maps did a thing that is irrelevant to 99.9% of people, and this is right. What I talk about is still social media. It's still Facebook. It's still TikTok. I'll talk about entrepreneurship and updates with these giant conglomerates and things like Google got sued in Australia where they lost a defamation case and they had to pay $40,000 for putting up a link to what was considered inaccurate content. So that's interesting to me, right? And it's in the space of social media, right? If anyone has a millisecond and they look at the username on TikTok or they look at my bio, they will quickly realize that I'm the owner of a digital marketing company. It's not hard. If they remember the words Send It Rising, they will find this show. They will find 398 episodes. There's like a lot of that stuff out there. But the criticism is, Kellen, you're not directly talking about marketing. Therefore, even if you do build a following, they don't know what you do. So whoop, like hooray for you and your giant ego. Like this is all just a massive narcissism trip and it's not profitable. And what's the point?
Well, isn't it?
Is it, Matt? I don't know. I would like to believe that it starts with no, and then they hit the like button, right? No like. It's not like I'm talking about luchadors. You know what I'm saying? Like it's still social media. It's because in my mind, I'll start doing lives and I'll start like interacting with these people in like different like ways, shapes, and forms. But I just look at my sister and like everything is about wigs. Like nothing. It's always like exactly the product she's selling. That's all she
Sure.
talks about. But I
Yeah,
don't want
she
to wake up and talk about SEO
no,
every day, all day.
she found her niche, but you're absolutely right. You can't just be one thing all the time. It can make you a little boring and beige. You got to be, you got to be interested to become interesting, right? So,
Yeah.
and so we do recommend that there's a format to publishing your snackable content or your social media content. We just use an acronym to keep it simple, which is called the ACES method. And so A stands for authority, C stands for connect, E stands for engage, and S stands for show. And so authority is anything that you want to be an expertise about. So in your case, you have many different umbrellas for that. That's you could be a dad as an expert for that. You could be as a digital marketing agency, as an entrepreneur, or finding little geeky things that are interesting about Google Maps or lawsuits they're taking with Google. Those are all awesome things that are authority. However, if you only do that and talk about that all the time, it makes it kind of 2D. And so what we want to do is we also want to publish other interesting content about this, which is connect content, which usually hits the heart, hits the funny bone, or hits you in the gut. This is the stuff, remember, people don't always remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel, right? And so giving sneak peeks behind the scene, having a bit of personality, having a little bit of fun with it goes a long way. People want to hang out with people who are likable and interesting and fun. And then engage is, listen, stop making it about you all the time. It doesn't need to be about you. You just need to be a good host of the party and a good conversation starter. And you can even showcase other people. So this is engagement. This is where you can stop being necessarily the talent all the time, which holds a lot of pressure. Instead, be the talent scout and be a giver and tag other people and share other people's content and ask other people questions. A lot of times, if you just ask the right question, well, guess what, Kellen? People will start creating the content for you in the comments. And believe it or not, relationships and connections are developed in the comments, in the replies, not in the posts, anyways, right? And then showing is just showing your work. So instead of selling, the best thing to do is just showcase it, show it, like show before and afters, what you're doing, even share the struggles, even show your fails. Like, God forbid, you share that you suck at that something or made a mistake. Doesn't that actually make you more real and more likable to buy from? So if you do those things, you follow that format, you just remember the ACES method, it's a great way of creating a well-rounded social media profile. And I always talk about it like this. So like your sister on TikTok, it's working for her, which is great. Like, don't not do things that don't work. Keep doing it. You don't need to reinvent the ways. But I think about a song. So I see there's a guitar behind you. I assume that you like music, but let's just take a piano as an example. If you only play one key on the piano, it's kind of a boring song, right? What we're going to do is play all the keys on the piano, and that becomes an interesting song. And that's what the ACES method does for you. It allows you to play a much more interesting song that makes you very likable. And just remember, they can't trust you, right, if they don't like you. And they can't know you if they don't like you. So you have to have frequency of know, and then like of the right kind of content. And then over time, trust. Trust comes from long form content. That's that second pillar I was talking about. So there's short form, long form, controlled form. So right here, this is an example of long form content.
Yeah. 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 No, this is great. So I don't understand how you arrived at this understanding. Um, Have you had successful social media platforms in the past where you've done this yourself?
Yeah, I have. I was really lucky to be really early on a lot of different things. So I actually launched my first agency officially in 2010, but what launched it was in 2008. I started posting YouTube videos. That was
Mm,
that was the first thing, and then I rolled into sort of like, very shortly after that, doing the Twitter thing, which was awesome as well too, and then I was also early to Google search. I specifically chose a niche of small business and local SEO because it was
yeah.
small businesses at the time, which then laddered me into my second agency once I sold that one in 14 to doing enterprise digital marketing. And the only reason I went there was I was like, hey, it's the same amount of work, but easier, and I get paid about 100 times more. Good, good choice, right?
Yeah.
For me. And so I moved into doing that, and that's where I was early on Facebook, particularly around organic and paid ads, and it was cheap, and I got to ride that, and I sold that one exited that one at 18, took some time off, and then I noticed in 18 when I was exiting that one, I was really getting aggressive in LinkedIn, mostly for talent acquisition. But I realized that was early. And then I was like, you know what? The next thing I'm going to do is really focused around LinkedIn. And then LinkedIn led me into building this sort of demand gen agency. So it went beyond just doing some personal branding on LinkedIn and other things. But that's kind of like the journey of how I got there. And the only social media platform that I'm active on anymore is just LinkedIn. I'm not active on
Mm,
any of the others anymore. So each one kind of like dissolved with each business. The mistake that if I could go back and do it, is I would have built a personal brand outside of the business on those social
mm.
platforms, so that I could have carried it forward with me each time. And this time, as I'm building it, that's something I'm being mindful of, because if you own the media and you own the community, you literally have a license to print money. You can just spin
Oh,
you can spin business at a business at a business as much as you want. So I
yep.
didn't understand that. I was building it more around the business and secretly making the money outside of that. But if I could go back, I would have focused just as much on the business social media as I would have on my personal branding around those different channels.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's one of the things my sister did so well because it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
the new flavor of the day is. She's always successful on it. Oh, TikTok. It's TikTok now. Okay, twice as successful as she was on, Instagram, which was twice as
Yeah.
successful as she was on Facebook.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. They just find her people, and eventually become like a celebrity, and people know you, and you have brand
Yeah,
and
you
all
just have arbitraging eyeballs, especially if you're early. At the end of the day, the model is there's more eyeballs than there is inventory of content, so they give it to you for free. And then when it over indexes and everybody piles on afterwards,
that.
then
Go.
it's a pay to play game. The initial pay to play game is still good too, because it's super cheap to begin with. But then over time, that becomes so noisy with advertisers that it's no longer cost effective, and then you need to roll to the next one. And so, someone who's always been good at doing this, and most people either love or hate, is Gary Vanderchuck.
Oh yeah.
He's probably the best person who's ridden all those different waves over the years and got most of them right. But at the end of the day, he understands the game of arbitrage. And once you arbitrage it back to your own community, so if you ever read the initial essay, it was written by Jeff Kelly. I think Tim Ferriss notes him all the time, called 1,000 True Fans. And there's
Mm,
another iteration of it. But the reality is, everybody should be building their 1,000 true fans, people who would drive across the country or fly to go see you. And if you have 1,000 true rabid buying fans like that in a niche, that then you are always going to be good. So my overarching niche or community that I want to live in is B2B. I just love that
yeah.
word. If I went deeper, it would be agencies, because that's my unfair advantage. I've owned 3 now and sold 2, right?
Yeah.
So with a bunch of failed projects in between, they were not all
Yeah.
successes.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I like bringing this up because I'm fascinated with AI and chess. I just hit 1,500 blitz. I don't know if you're familiar with scoresonchess.com. It's a big
I'm
achievement.
not. All right,
Very happy with
congratulations.
myself.
Awesome.
Yes, yes, yes. But anyway, what'll happen is the reason why machine learning is so interesting and so effective is that it can play games of chess against itself times a trillion and incredibly
Yeah.
quickly. And
Mm,
because it has, 500 billion losses under its belt, that's how
mm,
it predicts its next move. It goes,
mm,
these 500 billion moves led to failure. So I'm not going to
mm.
do those ones. So it's literally accumulating more failure than a human can achieve in a lifetime, which is why they will always win.
Yeah. makes sense. You know, you have to have a lot of losses, but this
Yeah,
is it's always. I mean, this is the funny thing. People always say that. Like it always seems like an overnight success because that's all that's promoted and is sexy. But the truth is, most people have been working at it for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So even like prior to this, you know, I did a decade on stage acting, and you know, you
Mhm.
would all of a sudden start booking work regularly, or be in this movie or this television show or this theater show that ran for a year. But I'm telling you, there's 15 years of like no's every single day, right? Or even like the businesses, like I started off with door-to-door cold sales. Then I went to telemarketing on my own. Then I actually did something called fax broadcasting, which is basically spamming fax machines, right?
Ah,
My first thing that I figured out how to do was I built a website and bought a book called Perry Marshall's Definitive Guide to Google AdWords and taught myself AdWords, you know what I
yeah.
mean? And like, you know, but there's, you know, you have to do all these things before it goes wrong. And then even then, like some of the businesses even that I was in, I knew things were broken. You know, the most frustrating thing is when something's broken and you can't even fix it because it got too big.
Mhm.
You know, you can't even go in and fix the thing that's broken. You know, sometimes that's what's so nice about a small business or a startup is you can fix things. But once it becomes a bigger business, it's broken and you can't even fucking do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've got some people near and dear to me who work in these huge corporations, and just
Yeah, the red tape.
the lament, of sort of like, what do you want me to do given
Yeah,
my position? And I
yeah.
just that's one of the reasons I love chess so much is the control, and it's a perfect
Mm,
game and there's no randomness.
mm,
Right? So, the best in the world will crush you 100 times out of 100, right?
yeah,
It's like, and you can try to be random with it, and oh, I'll try pushing this pawn and this crazy. No, crushed every time.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
um,
I like
so
chess too because it forces you to think many moves ahead and do many different role plays and use a lot of if then and this that sequences, which is a good work for your brain, right? Really, really great work for your brain. So,
yeah,
you know, it's something you can do your whole life, you know, like you can do it your whole bloody life, which is great. It's a great game.
yeah. A friend of mine, who will remain nameless, owns 3 companies, and he's a total savage in the business world. He taught himself to be an electrician after being a plumber, and then taught himself HVAC because he was sick, and got the licensures for all of them because he was sick of referring the business. Hey, do you
Yeah,
know a good electrician? Hey, do you know a good AC person? He's like, screw it, I'll just do all of it. And it
yeah,
turns out you can. Like, you don't just have to be a plumber. You can be all
yeah.
3. And then he just started a company on all 3 of them. And I mean,
What you
dude,
what you wait a minute. You're allowed to do more than one thing.
yeah, you know what I
No,
mean?
wait, no, no, no. You can only ever be one thing.
You're a doctor, and that is
You
who
that
you
is
are.
that is it. You are defined by that one thing.
That's right. That's right. It is wild. But, it's like, how many people do you know who are plumber, electrician, HVAC techs?
Not many, you know, at least it's in the same services of home services or renovations, which is awesome, you know, which is good. He's just a ninja. It's like to me, he sounds like a guy who like got a black belt in like karate and then got one in jiu-jitsu and then got one
He
in
just
like
did jujitsu.
boxing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
He did.
just he
Yeah.
just switched, and he's like, "Yo, I had to stop doing it. People getting broken." He's like, "I got what'd you say? He's like, got screws in my ankle." He's like, I walk like I forget it's some character you mentioned when he wakes up in the morning. He's doing like the penguin shuffle. But anyway, we played a game of chess together, and this is super fun. I invite you to a game of chess if you want to play on chess.com. We do 24-hour move games, so you have
Oh,
24
fun.
hours to make your next move. You can make them
Oh,
back to back to back if both of you are playing. Like, you can play fast, but you get caught up. Life happens. You just check your phone. You make the next move, um, and you're going to check your phone once a day, right?
no.
And it was just so funny.
Maybe you do, but I don't.
Oh, you do? Okay, well, fine. We will get into that. That's a whole thing. But what was so interesting is I have way more hours of chess than he does, so it's unfair. But he told me he just throws the pawns. He just pawn blitzes, and I'm like, okay. And I started playing him, and I've played 15,000 games of chess, I think, on chess.com. I've seen it all. I have never seen this opening.
Yep.
And like, I'm like, what is he doing? I kept turning to my fiance, being like, "This is the weird. Like, I don't know what to do because I've never seen this. Like, he's not blundering, but he's acting like a madman, like a total madman." And it was a great game, and it was really tense. And there's this moment in chess because if you watch Magnus Carlsen, world chess champion, or any of these major players play a blitz game, they both get 3 minutes, and they'll spend about 50 seconds on one move. You only have 3 minutes to play the whole game. They'll move. Like first 5 or 6 moves as you kind of blitz them out because it's theory, and then you get into like the moment, and they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait, and then they make the move, and the rest of the game just unfolds from that one move. Just it only takes like 30 more seconds to finish the whole game, and that's mastery. It's knowing that moment of maximum tension. It's like this is it. This move decides the game. And then the rest just, and I feel like business is like that. It's like you prep, and then there's that moment, right? And you have to make the right move in that moment, or suffer disastrous consequences.
I like how high stakes you make it.
Yeah. It's so true. It's like
then you will die.
Then it's death.
It'll be like Indiana Jones, your face melts off.
You will literally melt.
When he drinks the wrong
the Holy Grail.
You chose wrong.
That's right. That's what it feels like, man. I don't know. Like, don't you feel like hiring the right person? Like, if you hire the right people, it makes your life just infinitely easier.
For sure it does. I've hired lots of wrong people before to know there's a difference. That's why you hire slow.
Yeah.
And you fire fast.
That's what they say, but like every time I need to hire, it's always like go, because there's always that pressing need.
Totally, but that's because you don't have a hiring bench and you're not constantly prospecting for it. So most people, they build a sales funnel, but they don't build a talent funnel. And you have to have a talent funnel. Yeah, you're always hiring at all time, especially when you don't know what's going to happen. Like life just comes up. Sometimes there's maternity leave, sometimes someone gets sick, sometimes someone just changes and had enough. Sometimes leadership sucks, so people are going to leave. Like there's all kinds of very valid reasons to leave. But the one thing you're guaranteed is that people will need breaks or sabbaticals or leave. And why would you want to stand around, getting caught with your pants down? Like you might as well get ahead of it. So create a talent pipeline. It's just necessary. No matter what business you're in, you need a talent pipeline.
Yeah. My talent pipeline currently is I'll have a part-time person that wants to grow to full-time. That's kind of how we've dealt with that in the past.
Yeah.
I speak Spanish. That's been helpful, believe it or not, in order to like communicate with all, like, I don't know, 1 billion more people. I don't know how many people speak Spanish, but it's a lot. Yeah. So that's been good. Okay. So you've been objectively successful in a number of ventures. I've had people now talk about buying my company for the first time, and I think a lot of people have equity in their homes now because everyone's looking at like, oh, I got a lot of money, and if the kids are out of the house, they can sell it and really have a big pile of change, and the economy ostensibly is good. So when you sold the companies, did you do it during times of economic prosperity or did you do it during the recession? Like, what was the timing on that? I'm curious.
All my sales were due to stress.
What? For real?
Yeah, for realsies. Yeah. None of them were strategic. That's why I'm doing it. That's why the third time I'm hoping to get it right. And so
that's so funny. So walk me through
so the first time I was just overwhelmed, you know what I mean? Just didn't know what to do. Probably the best thing I could have done was actually, if I look back, I should have hired a coach. That's what I needed. I just needed someone who'd done it before, who was 2 or 3 steps ahead of me, who could have calmed me down and walked me through it and told me a few things. Like the first one was like, I was charging too little, paying team too much, and working like, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it was just burnout city. I didn't know what to do. So that was that reason why on that one. The second one was actually through partner stress. So I partnered with 2 other individuals. One was more like a silent partner, which is like fine. But then the other person was very much like me. We were not complementary. So we just and we didn't have the same values at the end of the day. And so if I was to look back, I would have spent more time investigating based what our values are, like how we deal. So I'll give you an example. Like me and my wife are great partners, been together for 20 years now, have 3 kids together. We couldn't be more different people in the world. Like, I mean, completely different people. But the one thing that we did get right is we have the same values. So
Mm.
the same core 5 values. So that I didn't understand, and if I'd gotten that right, that one would have worked out great. So I think partnerships are fantastic as long as you want to do different things and you have the same values. If you want to do the same thing and your values are different, you're fucking screwed, and it's going to be a nightmare, right? And
Uh,
and it wasn't all a nightmare, like anything. There was a lot of good with bad, and it taught me a ton of things that I would never not want to like go through the same experience again and made me a better human being. And I still think very highly of these individuals, but it was definitely the reason why it ended was due to stress. So
mm,
that's what caused the exit. This time around, though, I've learned those particular things, and we're doing things right. What I'd recommend in general, if you want to exit, you don't want to exit under stress because you don't make good decisions,
mm.
and you're
You
not
know
going to
what?
get as you're not going to
I
make you're not going to get as much money as you want. When you want to exit, being planned to know that you can exit. But what I always recommend to people is like take a 6 month sabbatical. Even if you're not going to sell it, a lot of times you can start seeing the trees in the forest and think clear, but one of three things will happen when you take a 6 month sabbatical. The business will go down, it'll stay flat, or go up. Doesn't matter. Now you know, right? And the idea is you want to keep playing that game, work on the business for a year, take a 6 month sabbatical. So you can test your work on whether the business is running or not. Once it starts going up, then you start having freedom and clarity, because I think that you can do a bunch of things. You could sell it, you'll get the most for it because you can prove that you don't need to be there. You could discover, like, I don't actually hate my business, I like my business, I think I'll keep doing this. You could then say, hey, this is, you could acquire other businesses, you could take some money off the table with a VC and still run it. Like, there's just so many different options you can do. But what you don't want to do is sell your business under stress and
oh yeah.
distress.
Yeah, they call it in the real estate world, they call it a motivated seller.
Yes, I guess that's what I was saying. I don't know if you're motivated. I think you're just so fucking raw and
Just over it.
beaten up, and you're just it happens to all of us at different times in our life, right? With different things, and you just don't make good decisions.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I don't know. I like to take things that are objectively bad and put a positive adjective in front of them as a way to
Yeah,
reframe how I think about them, like
yeah.
great depression or fantastic divorce, best divorce ever.
Epic,
Um,
epic.
Epic divorce. I mean, epic depression, epic pain,
Yeah,
because
that's fine.
that is a more realistic way of framing these things in my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
It's like I like crying, I just a good cry. I'm down for it. You know what I mean? Getting angry. I always see anger as a bad thing. It's never righteous anger. It's never good anger. It's never acceptable anger. It's always, oh, anger bad. Um and from a very macro perspective, yeah, I mean, it's the perfect unfolding of the universe. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
hear you. I mean, it's very practical
yeah,
advice. You don't want to stress sit.
yeah.
Stress sit. That's a new vocab word. Stress sit. Try saying that 3 times fast. Maybe it hasn't caught on because it's impossible to say.
Maybe. I don't know. It could be something else.
Hashtag stress sit.
What does it look? It
uh,
looks like this too, right? Like,
Yeah, just very, yeah, just it takes more calories to frown, but I'm overweight, so I'm frowning. Um, all right, it's 10:59. We close this show at 11, at least Pacific Standard Time. I want to make sure that the fine folks know about Automation Wolf. They know where they can reach you, where they can get more from you. Email if that's something you want to share. Your address, social security, whatever you want to share with the fine folks is fine. So go ahead, Matthew Hunt. Tell them.
so first, I live at 485 Jones. No,
That's 4-8.
5 Jones Avenue. It's the house with the
Pennsylvania.
it's the house with the red door.
Come to my house. Oh no, he's crazy.
Yeah, it's really easy, man. Go to automationwolf.com. It's spelled exactly the way it sounds. You can only do one thing there, really, or two things. You can watch a video, or you can get in touch with me, or you can go on LinkedIn and you can type in Matthew Hunt. You'll find me. Those are the only two places you can reach me. It's a one-page website on purpose.
Beautiful. That's great. Automationwolf.com. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. YouTube.com/ Send It Rising if you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or the 12 other podcast platforms that we are currently on. Thank you. We love you and appreciate you. Check out TikTok.com/ Send It Rising for reels of me barefoot longboarding like a psychopath. Some people's moms literally tell me to stop doing it. I'm going to do it anyway. Delivering social media news like the expert that I pretend to be. Matthew Hunt, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you on the show today. Final word of wisdom for the listeners.
Don't take life too seriously. I think you do great for that, so it's perfect.
That's hilarious. All right, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.